One evening, I opened my email. Subject: clarification on home environment. Confidential. I wanted to scream. I wanted to pick up the phone, call every room where my family was being discussed, and say, "It's a lie. I'm not a monster. I'm just a mother who raised her daughter alone. I did the best I could." But who cares? The truth is boring. And the story where the mom is the villain that one gets millions. I never thought I would say this out loud. But my daughter betrayed me. Yes, my own daughter. The one I raised alone. The one I worked 2 shifts for at the coffee shop on the corner of 10th and Pine Street in Sacramento. The one I prayed for every night, holding her old stuffed bear in my hands. She betrayed me for likes, for numbers on a screen, for the approval of strangers that disappears the moment you hit refresh. And if you're thinking I'm exaggerating, please, listen. This is not a story about a generation gap. It's not kids these days, you just don't understand. No number. This is a story about how fame destroyed something built over years. It started with TikTok. Then brand deals, interviews, influencer events in Los Angeles. And then lies. Loud, deliberate lies. Against me? In one video, she called me abusive and toxic. In another, a controlling religious fanatic. I don't even go to church, I just baked her muffins on Sundays. And all of this? For views. For content. My coworkers started avoiding my eyes. My neighbor on the landing, Mrs. Duval, with whom I'd baked apple pies for Thanksgiving for 15 years, sent me a passive-aggressive card. I hope you find peace in your soul despite all you've done. I sat in the kitchen reading that card aloud, unable to understand when all of this became reality. It wasn't just a moment of betrayal, it was the end of something sacred. I always thought there was a bond between a mother and daughter that nothing could break. But likes broke it. Algorithms broke it. And the people who believe every word they see in a 30-second clip broke it. You might think I'm telling this out of spite. I'm not. I'm telling this because the truth matters. Because no matter how loudly fame shouts, it can't drown out the silence where the person you betrayed remains. My daughter made a choice. And the consequences of that choice were painful for both of us. But you need to know where it all started. Before TikTok, before interviews, before $10,000 brand deals per post, there was me. And there was her. And there was a love I thought was unbreakable. Spoiler. I was wrong. My name is Linda Harper. I'm 47. And almost everything I've done in this life I did for one person, my daughter. I live in Sacramento, California. Not in a fancy neighborhood with palm trees and pools, but in an ordinary part of town near a CVS pharmacy and a thrift furniture store where I once found our first dining table for $20. I raised my daughter alone. Her name is Ellie. From the very beginning, her first steps, first words, first falls, and first victories, it was just the two of us. Her father disappeared as soon as the test came back positive. I'm not even angry at him now, he's just not part of this story. This story is only about me, a girl with golden curls and too much coffee in her thermos to stay awake on the way to work. I worked 3 jobs, mornings dental assistant, evenings receptionist at the gym, and weekends helping a friend bake cupcakes to order. I didn't have expensive bags, no heels or salons. But Ellie had school lunches, sneakers, a vocal club, and even a trip to Disneyland for her 10th birthday. I saved for that for almost 2 years. I didn't complain. Because it was all for her. And the most important thing, we had a bond, a real one. We baked cookies together in the evenings, laughed at Netflix movies, had girls-only nights, pajamas, popcorn, and talks about everything under the sun. I remember when she first told me she liked a boy in 8th grade. I said, "That means you're growing up, and I'm proud." We never had much money, but we always had love. I thought, that's what matters most. That even without a car, without vacations, without certainty about tomorrow if we held on to each other, it was all worth it. Ellie was my purpose, my sunshine, my best friend. We were a team. At least, that's what I thought. But apparently, I was the only player on that team. Because when her TikTok story began, when she started building her brand, it turned out I was just part of her content, Not a person, not a mom, but a plot twist she could lie about to millions. But I didn't know that then. Then I still believed we were us. That she would never betray me. Turns out I was wrong. Deeper than I could imagine. Haley was 17 when it all started. Well, actually, it started earlier with dancing on TikTok and funny filters, but that was when it became different. At home, we always had an old tripod. I once bought it on Amazon for $18 to film family videos. It wobbled, but Haley used it as if it were professional equipment. Every morning, light in her face, phone recording, and phrases like, "Hey everyone, it's Haley, welcome to my day." At first, it was innocent. Videos about makeup, school outfits, how to make a latte at home. No drama, no problems. And suddenly 10,000 followers. Even then, I didn't quite understand what that meant. 10,000 people listening to what your daughter says, liking, commenting, sliding into her DMs. Then the first email from a brand, a free cream. I remember her yelling from her room, "Mom, I'm an ambassador. I have a discount code." I smiled. I had always supported her. Bought her a ring light. Let her repaint the wall beige for the background. I wanted her to feel that I believed in her. But something started to change. And it wasn't about the followers. It was about her behavior. At first, a slight distance. Then irritation if I accidentally walked into her room during filming. One day I just asked, "How are you doing, sweetheart?" And she replied, "Can you not be so clingy? It's cringe." Clingy. Me. Haley started talking like someone I didn't know. "This isn't content. Mom, you don't get it. You're just from another time." When I asked her to clean up or turn off the bathroom light, she'd roll her eyes and walk away with her phone in hand. Sometimes I'd hear her tell followers she has to live with a prehistoric mom who's afraid of Wi-Fi. It hurt. But I told myself, teenagers, it's just a phase, she'll grow out of it. But deep down, I already felt this wasn't just teenage stuff. One day, I suggested she visit Grandma in Lake Tahoe just to spend some time together like before. She said, "I can't. I have a collab with a blogger from LA. That's more important." I said, "Do you really think that?" She looked at me and said, "You just don't understand the new world. You never had it." That's when I cried for the first time. Quietly, in the bathroom, so she wouldn't see. I didn't blame her. I blamed myself. Maybe I let too much happen. Maybe I didn't realize a tiny screen could push us farther apart than thousands of miles. But I didn't yet know this was just the beginning. That likes would become currency, that followers would be judges, that the truth would be rewritten. And I cast out of my own life. I didn't find out from her. It happened on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday, during lunch break at the office. I work as an accountant at a dental clinic in Sacramento, and that day my colleague Jen and I popped into a small cafe nearby for coffee and muffins. We were sitting by the window chatting when Jen suddenly leaned over and said, Listen, I don't mean to pry, but is that your daughter?" And she handed me her phone. On the screen, TikTok. The caption read, "How I Survive with a Toxic Mother." And there she was, Haley, my daughter, with tearful eyes and a plaintive voice saying, "My mom has always been controlling. She yells when I'm just filming a video. She manipulates me. Sometimes I'm scared to fall asleep." At first, I didn't even realize it was about me. I sat there holding my coffee, my hand trembling. It felt like I'd been hit by an electric shock. Jen looked at me, not knowing what to say. Then I saw another video. She said, "I grew up in an abusive environment. I was never allowed to be myself. I just want to be free." And another. My mom's reaction when I say I want to do blogging, yelling, and blackmail. It was all lies. Every word. I never yelled at her. I supported her. I bought her lights. I paid for the Wi-Fi, the phone, everything. I stood by her when she doubted herself. I defended her when teachers said she was too dreamy. And now, thousands of likes. Tens of thousands of comments. Oh my God, what a monster of a mother. You're so strong, Haley. Post more. Show us how she yells. I went home, drove on autopilot. My heart was pounding like I'd run a marathon. When I entered her room, she was sitting in front of the camera. Background light, perfectly placed lamp. She turned to me and said, "Mom, could you knock? I'm recording a story." I said, "Is it true what you're posting?" She sighed. "Mom, it's just content. People like drama. It's not about you, don't take it personally. Not about me. Even though thousands now saw me as an abuser. Even though I couldn't go to the store without looking over my shoulder, who knows who'd seen her videos? I didn't recognize my daughter. And she didn't even try to understand how much it hurt me. For her, it was just numbers. Likes, growth, popularity. I went to my room, closed the door, and for the first time in my life, I felt not like a mother, but a character. A fake monster created for the screen. And all I wanted was for her to just look at me and say, "Mom, I lied. I'm sorry." But that didn't happen. Because the truth doesn't go viral, but lies bring followers. When you go viral, but not by your own choice, it's a strange feeling. I didn't post anything, didn't write comments, didn't make any excuses. But the world had already made up its mind for me. A week after Haley's videos hit hundreds of thousands of views, everything started to change. First, the looks. Mrs. Ellen, our neighbor with whom we used to bake cookies on Thanksgiving, stopped saying hello. She just walked past me like I was invisible. One morning, I went to Safeway to buy milk, and in the aisle between cereals and water, I heard whispers. That's her, the mom. Crazy, poor girl. I stood there frozen, basket in hand. They didn't look me in the eye. But I saw one woman holding her phone showing my daughter's video. My face cut out from an old family photo, cropped, blurred, captioned, toxic past. I came home and sat on the couch. Ate nothing, just stared out the window for hours. Sometimes I heard Haley laughing upstairs, calling her friend, talking about the comments. For her, it was a rise. For me, a fall. I tried to talk to her. Not to accuse, just to understand. "Haley," I said one evening, "you know this isn't true. Why are you doing this?" She looked at me like I was some boring old-school teacher. "Mom, you don't get it. It's not really about you. It's about how I feel, and I have the right to express that." I have the right. I do. But I don't even have the right to defend myself. But the hardest part came later. One evening, I opened my email. Among the bills, an official letter from the school. Subject: clarification of home environment. Confidential. It was polite, formal, but the message was clear. We are concerned about Haley's emotional well-being given the information circulating publicly. Please clarify the situation, and if needed, we can offer consultations with the school psychologist. They had seen her videos. Teachers, classmates, administration. And now they saw me as a problem. I wanted to scream, wanted to grab my phone, call every room where my family was being talked about and say, "This is a lie. I'm not a monster. I'm just a mother who raised her daughter alone. I did what I could." But who would listen? The truth is boring, and a story where the mom is the villain gets millions of views. So there I was, sitting in the kitchen, holding that letter with empty eyes, feeling myself sinking into a loneliness I hadn't known since I gave birth to Haley. Only now it was worse. Because now I was alone, but with a daughter who had turned her back on me, for the whole internet to see. When you've been betrayed once, you hope it was an accident, that you can talk it through, that maybe the person didn't understand, didn't realize, especially if it's your own child. I remember sitting in her room. She was sitting across from me, wearing headphones and a t-shirt that said, "Create, disrupt, repeat," a phrase she loved. I held a tablet in my hands, still open to her video, the one where she said I emotionally abused her, that you couldn't be yourself at home. I showed her the screen. "Haley," I said as calmly as I could, "this isn't true, and you know it. You don't have to love every decision I make, but this is a lie, and it's breaking me." She looked at me without blinking. "Mom, this is my experience." "No," I replied. This is the story you're selling. She stood up and closed the laptop. You just don't want me to succeed. You're angry that I have a voice. I'm angry that you use lies to make that voice louder. You're holding me back as always, she snapped. And that was it. The next day, I saw a folder on her desk. A contract. An agency called Next Now Media Los Angeles. An agreement to manage her accounts, place sponsored videos, and connect with brands. She wasn't hiding it. On the contrary, she was proud. I signed, Mom. It's serious. I looked at her, the little girl I'd taken to elementary school, hugged after every failure, baked a birthday cake for. Now she was a young influencer, speaking with a cold gleam in her eyes. A week later, her first interview was out. A YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers. The host asked, "What was the hardest thing about your childhood?" Haley looked into the camera. The atmosphere, the fear, feeling like you're never good enough, even at home. I watched it and felt the ground slip away beneath me. I wasn't perfect. Yes, I worked a lot. Yes, sometimes I snapped. But I loved, I fought. And now my whole life had turned into a 15-minute story, gathering 300,000 likes and comments like, "Stay strong, girl. We believe you." Moms like that are why we need to talk more about mental abuse. I wanted to scream, "That's not true." But who would listen? I realized I had lost my daughter, not in one day. Not because of TikTok, not even because of the videos, but because somewhere along the way she decided, I am her content. I am her storyline. I am material for her growth. And love? Love doesn't get views. I never believed justice could come from the internet. But, as it turned out, that's exactly where it all began. With one single video, from a blogger I didn't even know before. His name is Jason Keller. He lives in Portland and runs a YouTube channel called TruthTube. He does exposés usually about fake charity projects and motivational gurus. But one day, he posted a video titled, "Influencer Lied About Abusive Mom? Let's Talk." On the screen, a familiar face, my daughter. And the first clip, her interview saying, "I lived in fear every day." Jason slows down the video, pauses, and says, "Something doesn't add up here. Let's dig deeper." He starts simple, opens her old TikTok videos from before the fame. There she is, laughing, dancing, and, attention, filming me. We were baking cookies together, and she captioned the video, "My bestie aka mom." That was 2021, 2 years before the darkness and fear. Then he goes deeper, finds her Facebook account where, on my birthday, she posts a photo with the caption, "I got lucky in this life, thank you, Mom." Jason doesn't stop. He contacts our former neighbor, Haley's high school teacher, Miss Jenkins. In the interview, she says, "Haley was always cheerful. Her mom came to every meeting, always participated in school projects. I don't remember a single hint that there was fear at home." And then the TikTok community starts doubting. At first cautiously. Strange. I've been following since 2020. Mom seemed normal. Then louder. Why do the old videos contradict the new stories? And then hundreds of comments appear under Haley's videos. "We believe survivors, but this looks like a lie. You can't destroy someone's life for content. Where are the apologies?" Jason posts a second video. "The problem with monetizing trauma when it's not yours." It gets 2 million views. A journalist from BuzzFeed contacts me, writes, "We've investigated everything. Would you like to share your side?" And so, 2 months after the whole world called me a monster, the tide starts to turn. Videos with the hashtag number Justice for Mom appear online. People rewatch her interviews, stream live, compare facts. I didn't feel joy. It wasn't a victory. It was relief. Like someone finally turned the key and I could step out of the darkness again. Haley, by the way, didn't respond. Deleted comments, closed her DMs. And I just sat in my Sacramento kitchen with a cup of tea and thought, truth catches up, sometimes slowly, but it catches up. After Jason Keller's second video, everything started rolling. Like an avalanche, but in reverse. At first, it was slow, fewer likes, fewer shares. Then suddenly, one by one, people started unfollowing her. 3 days after the video dropped, Bright Light Creators, the agency Haley had signed with, released a statement. "We are terminating all agreements with Miss Haley Brooks due to the revealed circumstances. We condemn the use of fabricated trauma for profit." Following the agency, the brands pulled out. Glow Skin, Daily Energy Tea, even NovaFit, all who paid her for endorsements, crossed her name off their pages. On TikTok, where she was recently a rising star with 750,000 followers, the blocks began. People mass-reported her videos. The algorithm stopped promoting her content. Comments filled with anger. "You used your mother for fame. Never show up in my feed again. How do you sleep at night?" And then Haley did what many do when there's nowhere left to run. She posted an apology video. Sitting in her room, no filters, no makeup. Speaking quietly, almost whispering, "I want to apologize to my mom and to everyone I deceived. I got confused. I thought I was just making content, but I crossed the line, and now I'm paying for it." She cried, really cried. And I sat in front of the screen, watching, and feeling nothing. No anger, no sympathy, just emptiness. Because those words came too late. Because she apologized not when I begged her to stop, but only when she had lost everything. Gradually, TikTok became hostile territory for her. More dislikes than likes. Comments disabled. Fan accounts disappeared. And those who once defended her now wrote, "You let us down. This isn't just a mistake, it's betrayal. Your mom raised you, and you made her the enemy." I heard from friends that she wasn't accepted to the college she planned to attend. The offer was revoked. The campus counseling center wrote to her, "Your online behavior does not align with the values of our community." She stayed in Sacramento, lived with her dad for a few weeks, then came back to the house. And my house. We didn't talk. She just passed me silently in the hallway. And I saw the fear in her eyes. Not fear of me, fear of silence, fear of being alone. Because now the fame was gone. And I was left behind. Haley never came back. After everything that happened after the collapse, the apologies, the blocks, she simply disappeared from my life. No calls, no letters, no messages. I only watched her profile vanish from TikTok, then from Instagram, as if someone erased her existence from the internet and from my home. A month, too. At first, I checked my email every day, looked at my phone, waiting for it to light up with her name. But it stayed silent. The house was quiet. The fridge had food for one. On the couch, just my blanket and the pillow I hug at night. I had lived alone before, but not like this. Before, there was life in the house, hope, movement. Even when we argued, I felt we were a family. Now, just emptiness. The pain was strange. Not sharp, not loud, but dragging on, constant, like a mild burn that never heals. I watched old videos. Her first school concert. Our trips to Target. How we baked cookies together at Christmas. Haley's voice bright, alive, nearby. And I thought, where is that girl? Where did she go? Was she ever real? Because the one who painted me as a monster for likes, I didn't know her. The one who coldly said, "You're holding me back," I didn't recognize. It wasn't just a generation gap, it was betrayal. And at some point, I broke. Not out loud, not hysterically. Quietly, inside. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m., sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea and told myself, maybe I lost my daughter, but I won't lose myself. It was like acceptance. Like after a death when you stop waiting for a call and just live. There were days I blamed myself. What did I miss? Where did I fail to understand? Maybe if I had been softer, or stricter, or spoken differently. But then I remembered how much I gave, how much I did, how much I forgave. And I started to think, maybe the real Haley left even earlier. Maybe we were close only as long as she needed me. And then she started seeing me as an obstacle, as a shadow from the past. It's been almost 6 months. She hasn't come back, hasn't apologized again. And, I'm not waiting anymore. But every day I tell myself, I'm not just a mother, I'm a person. And I deserve truth, respect, and a silence where I don't have to be afraid. Sometimes people look at me and judge. How could you let this happen? Why didn't you intervene sooner? Why did you let your daughter do this? Yes, you can judge, and I'm not asking you to understand me. I never asked for fame, never. I only asked for one thing, respect. Respect for me as a mother, as a person who fought, loved, sacrificed, not for likes, not for followers, but for family. When fame becomes more important than family, you've already lost. Losing a child is pain. But losing yourself, that's the real tragedy. I forgave Haley, not because everything became perfect, but because I know holding on to resentment, anger, bitterness means burning yourself from the inside out. But forgiving myself, I'm still learning that. Learning to let go of expectations, learning to accept that not everything is in our hands. Sometimes loss is what saves your soul. Because it's in the silence of loneliness that I began to hear myself. Started to rebuild my life not by someone else's standards, not for someone else's fame. I'm not trending. I'm not a viral video. But I'm real. And maybe that's enough. If you ever find yourself in a similar situation, remember, you don't have to be the hero of someone else's story. You can just be yourself. And that is the greatest freedom of all.